Navy SEALs are like sharks in the ocean. They stand out because of the insane work and dedication they put in, between the intense amount of training to become a SEAL and their training to remain a SEAL, along with the operations they carry out. This brings up Nathan Charles, who served as a Navy SEAL on SEAL Team 2, Naval Special Warfare Unit 3, and the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, and was involved in Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan and earned different medals and service awards. Born on June 29, 1979, in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, Charles lived with his younger brother and sister. While attending Cedar Crest High School, he was a member of the swim team and eventually graduated. He ended up going to the Naval Academy about a month later. He graduated in 4 years, then went into 6.5 years of regular active duty as a Navy SEAL officer, and then into the reserves. After that, he worked for the Defense Department, where he got his law degree at night. Throughout his family, he has had many different people who have served, including his natural father, who was an ROTC student at Penn State and grew up in the Pittsburgh area. He was a co-pilot of a C-130 mission which crashed in Ramstein in 1981, along with his grandfathers who served. One served in the Navy in World War II and the other in the Navy during Korea, and the last one served as a merchant mechanic during World War II. While all of his grandfathers and father were in the sea service somehow, all of them told him to join the Coast Guard, but he still ended up joining the Navy too.
My natural father, my father who raised me is Bradford Charles, but he adopted me when I was 4. My natural father was Curtis Pfeiffer, grew up in the Pittsburgh area and was an ROTC student at Penn State. He became an Air Force pilot. He was the co-pilot of a C-130 mission that crashed in 1981 in Ramstein. So the potential for mortality, the potential for danger in military service, even during peacetime, is something it was clearly is something that my family was keenly aware of. So I have to imagine there was some reticence there when I decided to join the service, especially with my mom, who is a Gold Star widow. My father, Brad Charles, the man that raised me, he did not serve in the military and has expressed some regrets for not doing that. But the time that he grew up was very different. It was towards the tail end of he came of age at the tail end of the Vietnam War, when clearly things were not going well over there, and military service was largely viewed as something that was foisted upon people who were underprivileged, rather than something that was a noble profession. So it's quite a different environment that he grew up in. But my grandfather encouraged me. My grandfather had been in the Navy in World War II. My other grandfather had been in the Navy during Korea, and my third grandfather, my natural father's father, was in the Merchant Marines during World War II. So all 3 of my grandfathers were veterans of the sea service in some way, shape, or form, and almost all 3 of them encouraged me to join the Coast Guard.
When joining, Charles volunteered when he saw a commission at the Naval Academy that was very competitive, but he had somewhat of an advantage because he was the kid of a member of the service that was skilled in the line of duty. One of the reasons he joined was because he wanted to follow in the footsteps of the rest of his family that served. He joined the Navy because he stated that it had a variety of different career paths. Once he joined, it started right away with being screamed at and looked down on. But then the training started and BUDS came. While he completed BUDS, his class was the first class to go through the extended training. This lasted for about a year and a half before he went on to the SEAL team. During BUDS and through Hell Week and even beyond, it's just trying to get you to quit because they only want people who are determined and willing to work. While he was in training, his most vivid memory was his first night halo, his first time jumping out of a plane at night.
I mean, I think my most vivid memory was my first night halo. The first time I jumped out of a plane at night. it's pretty surreal. it's it's pretty surreal, especially it's like San Diego, because you look out and like the whole city of San Diego is lit up. The whole city of of Tijuana, just over the border of Mexico, is all lit up, and then when you're jumping into a drop zone that's pretty much in the desert just outside of town. So when you jump out at like 13,000 feet, there is nothing underneath you except black, and the horizon is just lit up like crazy. And you've got like a chem light, a tiny chem light, mounted on your altimeter, so you can read your altimeter, and you're looking out for everybody around you who's got chem lights on them, so you don't run into each other in free fall. It's pretty intense. I mean, you're screaming at the ground at about 130 miles an hour, and you can't even tell because it's dark. There's very little there are very little reference points. The only way you even know you're falling is because you're looking, you're paying pretty close attention to your altimeter, and that needle's moving south pretty fast. You just follow your training. You're like, you try and stay stable in the air column. You try and not get too close to your buddies, and then when you get to the right altitude, you just pull the ripcord.
Charles then went to SEAL Delivery Vehicle School to learn how to drive a wet mini submersible while he was on SDV Team 2 in Virginia Beach. They ended up training for a mission for about a year that eventually got called off. After that, they got attached to SEAL Team 8 for reconnaissance and went to Afghanistan with them, which was his first deployment. He says the hard part about military lifestyle was that he was always on the move to different locations for a variety of different things. But with this traveling, he got to experience many different cultures and see the difference between what Americans say it is like versus what it's actually like. He also liked that he was able to give a lot of influence over the situations. Throughout Charles's service, he was in Virginia Beach for most of the training, then was at a few different places throughout his time, mainly all over the Middle East. While in service, Charles was exposed to a lot of different things, such as new cultures and communities that he wouldn't have had access to otherwise. These helped expand his worldview. It also gave him leadership experience and also taught him how to manage and lead people. He says one of his negative outcomes is that he got to see where all the rough parts were and what wasn't working. But he is glad that he was not in the service during peacetime, so he had something to do. While away, Charles used many different ways of communicating over the years. In 2001, when he was in Afghanistan, video calls were very rare, but he and other people with him got excited because they got an Atlas pad, which is a satellite-based thing with phones attached to it. Using an Iridium sat phone, Charles called his mom on Easter morning. Then, 10 years later, during his second and third tour, there was Wi-Fi and then he could do video chats, but he didn't write many letters, but he did write some emails. One routine he had was before he went into any mission, he would always write a death letter and leave it on his bed. He did this just in case he didn't come back. He would always have something to give to his parents so they got something from him. Although, one day, he was replaced by Mike Murphy and SEAL Team 10. They went in during April of 2005 and they were all dead by June. At least 12 people had died. Charles and the people he was there with had gone to their mass funeral. Charles' favorite part was when he was traveling and training other forces. He felt that he was doing something good for the world, helping countries run a better government instead of going to war. Towards the end and after his service, Charles ended up writing a capstone project on how law enforcement can be used as a counterinsurgency tool, and what works and doesn't work in a counterinsurgency environment. Then he went on to teaching counterterrorism and sources of implausible violence at American University. One specific thing Charles hopes that would be remembered about his story is that he did the right thing for the right reasons, and he wishes more people knew that being a veteran is more than just what they see on TV. There's more than the just stereotypical old veteran. The veteran community is very diverse, and some people take their knowledge and use it for good, but there are a handful that come back and use their knowledge for bad, becoming a threat. Last but not least, I would like to thank Mr. Charles for his service.